he had it was Zachary who had left it open for him. Maybe he had been wrong. He shut his eyes, letting the head touch the grass. He tried to move, but the pain was too intense. The blood was running down his cheeks now, sticky and warm, bright red tears. Breathing was getting even more difficult. He didn't think his legs were broken, but his hands felt like most as bad shape as he'd faced. Worst of all, his back. He clenched his jaw, refusing to give up. He remembered all the hits he had taken before he had played football, all the pain he endured. He could get through this. He could do through this. Then he pictured Sarah lying in bed, her hair silky black halo around her head. He would get through this. An hour later, the sirens pulled him out of grey haze. It took him a moment to remember where he was. The pain returned, even sharper than before. He groaned, opened his eyes, his face ached, and he could see and more important could breathe. The sirens got louder, piercing his ears, ricocheting through the school. He turned his head and watched the ambulance pull to stop a few feet from he was lying. And just the ambulance, he could see the remains of his bike. He wondered if he looked as twisted, as broken as Ducati. The frame was bent so far back that two tires almost touched. The ambulance doors opened and two Japanese paramedics stepped out, pulling a stretcher behind them. They didn't seem to be in any particular rush. Both were wearing light blue jumpsuits, and one of them had a stethoscope around his neck. They strolled over where Malcolm was lying and see the stretcher next to him. Then the one with the stethoscope dropped to one knee, leaning close to his face. He asked, "Are you okay?" Malcolm stared at him. The man made no move to provide any sort of first aid. No oxygen tank, no back brace, no compressors. The stethoscope seemed to be just for show. Thankfully, Malcolm didn't feel like he was bleeding heavily from any wound he could see. The only real pain was his back, face, and hands. Malcolm watched as other paramedics came around in another side. To his surprise, the man was smoking a cigarette. The first paramedic patted his shoulder. That must really hurt. If Malcolm hadn't been in so much pain, he would have laughed. The Japanese Laurel and Hardy bent forward, and none of them too gently lifted him on the stretcher. They carried him towards the ambulance, and they slid him inside. He cautiously lifted his head. "If you are not going to give me any medicine, please give me a cigarette." The paramedic with stethoscope gave him a wink and thumb up, then slammed the ambulance door shut. The worst part was when they cut Liz's motorcycle suit of him. Each flick of scissors sent chills down body, but mainly because he was afraid of what they might find underneath. But at least they were working on him. After 2 hours in the country hospital waiting room, he would have been happy to have been back in ambulance. When nurses finally wheeled his scratch into a certain examined room, there was a Japanese doctor in white coat waiting for him. The nurse had gone to work with scissors, and the doctor had immediately called down to the hospital minuscule radiology department, booking an X-ray machine. Another hour passed before Malcolm could finally pass his fears to the rest. The X-ray showed 3 broken ribs, but no spinal cord damage and no internal bleeding. His legs were okay, and his hands, through torn from the collision with the BMW, were unbroken. His face looked bad, but it was nothing that time the stitch wouldn't fix. Malcolm had broken ribs before and knew that the cracks were painful and long, but they weren't life-threatening. Репетитор по скайпу, Smart Teacher Studio.